as a second language. So I haven't worked with native speakers yet. It might happen one day, but I'm helping those who are using English as a second language. And I have a huge amount of respect for those people because in the UK, a lot of us really don't learn other languages. We learn a little bit of French, perhaps at school, but that's it. So for someone to be able to use a second language in the work environment is amazing to me. So I'm very privileged really to be able to help people do that better. I can help in a few different ways. So I can help with interview preparation. I can help people who are in the work environment and maybe not quite comfortable there, dealing with different situations, different vocabulary, and then taking it to the next level for people who need to deal with more difficult situations. So sharing difficult messages, disagreeing politely, all those sorts of things.
So you mentioned that you have been working with a lot of people whose English is not their first language. So, and you mentioned that they face a lot of difficulties. So can you tell a bit more in specifics what kind of difficulties people whose English is not their first language, like me? I mean, I can talk about my own experience and the difficulties I face, especially when I have to check the documents. Sometimes it becomes really like I cannot understand what's going on. So can you tell us a bit more, like what kind of difficulties people usually face?
Yeah, sure. So often for people, it's just confidence about their speaking. So people have often reached quite a high level of English when it comes to listening and reading, because they've often read and listened a lot as part of their studies. But if they're not living in an English-speaking country, then their speaking tends to be a bit sort of behind because they haven't had those opportunities. So having to then speak at work and speak in new situations, perhaps with vocabulary that's not so familiar to them, that can be quite difficult. So sometimes we'll role play, sort of simulate a meeting, for example, so that people can practice that. Or practice presentation skills. Yeah, that's one of the challenges. And one of my clients was telling me today how when she's writing, Microsoft, Word, comes up and makes suggestions all the time. Now, for me as a native speaker, I can say, yeah, okay, or no, actually, I'm happy with my language as it is, thank you. But for someone who's using English as a second language, it's hard to be sure whether Microsoft is helping or whether they were doing well in the first place. Yeah.
About this, let's call it autopilot or whatever you can call it. Do you think it's a good idea that we, let's say, as non-native speaker, use them? Do you think it is helpful, or I mean, it's like not really because we get too dependent on it?
Well, you probably do get too dependent, and I think as native speakers we rely on it as well, for spelling, things like that. So yeah, I think everyone relies on it a little bit too much sometimes. And now, of course, we have AI, we have ChatGPT that will actually write your emails for you. So we're getting to a whole new level potentially of dependence.
Yes,
technology, yeah,
definitely. I mean,
but it won't help us speak.
I see. Now I want to ask you some questions about your background, because as you know, like most of people who are here, like I'll say attendees, come from the IT background or are people who want to get into the IT. So what about you? Have you worked in cybersecurity or IT? Because I could see from your profile that you have done things related to that. So can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I've worked in IT for many years, and actually I'm not a technical person. I'm not a programmer or anything like that. My role was sort of training and communication. So I started out as a trainer back years ago. I used to train on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and then business systems. I worked for a housing association, so we had a housing management system, and I would train on that. And I got working with the information security team, as it was then, and we did a security awareness program for all the employees there. So that's how I got a bit closer to cybersecurity, working with that team. But yeah, I've been around technical people for I won't tell you how many years, a lot.
Okay, so you know the IT people pretty well. So among people who want to get into the IT, there's a common belief that, you know what, like let's say I'm an introvert, so I'm getting into IT, and you know what, I don't actually need to communicate to people. I can just communicate with my computer, and I will have to do with numbers, codes, functions, loops, etc. Do you think that is true, or you think that it is actually important for IT professionals to communicate well?
I think it's hugely important for IT professionals to communicate well. I mean, there is this idea, isn't there, that you can be this sort of, hugely competent sort of technical person who sits in the corner, maybe wearing a black t-shirt, coding away. Yeah. But for most people, that's really not the case. Wherever you work in IT, you're going to be part of a team, and being part of a team means working with people. So you may be, if you're coding, you may be doing peer review and communicating with people to do that. In cybersecurity, you might be communicating with other people sort of in IT, sort of infrastructure people, for example, service desk, or you might be talking to end users as well, if they've clicked a link in a phishing email, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of communication going on just through being part of a team and having to engage with people. And I think the further you go in your career, the more important communication becomes. So as you get a little bit more senior, perhaps you might start to lead a team, and then you've got to communicate with your team. You've got to do their appraisals. You might have to present to management. So, or give demonstrations, for example, give demos to the business. So yeah, it's very important, I think.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. As I've mentioned to you before in our private conversation, I was doing mentoring, and I had this belief among, let's say, the students, or I don't want to call them my students because I was just a mentor, not a teacher or instructor. But it was this belief that, okay, I mean, we don't really need to communicate much. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a lot about communicating. So I just want to tell our participants here that, guys, if you have any questions, just let us know. Usually when we have questions from your side, things get a bit more interesting. We also had an event yesterday with a very successful lady from Ghana. So we had a lot of questions yesterday, and I'm expecting many questions today. But if you don't have, of course, we can't say people, ask questions. If you have any questions, we would be glad to hear them. Now, but when we talk about communication, Barbara, we see that there are other things that's going on, right? So you said that it was difficult to. I mean, it's not that easy to write an email, but now it's getting more easy because of autocorrection, and now we have things like ChatGPT, right? So it has arrived, it's here, and it is here pretty early, and there are people who are actually afraid of it, but there are people who see it as a huge chance. I don't know, for whatever it can be, but especially with the companies. So at the same time, we have people that are working more remotely at the same time, so
Mm.
they think that there is not much communication involved. However, I want to get back to ChatGPT. So when it comes to AI and tools like it, do you see more opportunities or challenges there, or you see both?
I see both. I'm taking it a little wider, perhaps. We have ChatGPT, but we also have more remote working now. So before the pandemic, I mean, I worked in an office 5 days a week, and then COVID came, and that suddenly changed. And the world is a very different place now. So I think that does bring both challenges and opportunities. So the challenges that it brings is that we don't meet in person as much now, and that does make it harder, I think, for new starters when somebody's joining a business new. It's harder to build those sort of relationships sort of in the first instance. And I think working remotely, we can become very dependent on messaging chats, whether that's Teams or Slack or whatever people are using. We just ping these little messages out rather than actually speak. So I think those are challenges, but there are a lot of advantages as well. As I said, we have ChatGPT that can help with those sort of emails. It can also simplify text. If you're working in a second language, it can simplify, it can summarize. We have AI that can actually take meeting notes now, so the big opportunities there. But also where we would have had sort of phone calls, audio calls in the past, now we have the opportunity for video calls, which is a big improvement because it gives us more sort of non-verbal communication. It gives us a greater connection with the person that we're speaking to. So I think that's a big opportunity, compared to the old world of just audio calls or having maybe to travel to see people face to face. I've just seen we've got a question coming in.
I think we do one from so there's one question from Stephanie. Can you please read that? And then we have Selma who wants to also ask a question.
Okay.
She's raising her hand.
Okay, I'll read Stephanie. So Stephanie has asked, what are some ways to communicate with your remote team and build relationships without seeming like you're micromanaging as a leader or as a colleague reaching out to a peer? Okay, good question, Stephanie. And I think that's something that businesses around the world are actually still learning, because COVID fast-tracked us into remote working or sometimes hybrid working much very suddenly and very quickly. So learning that might have happened maybe over 5 years or something just came straight away. So there is still learning, but I think one thing that you can do for building relationships is to have sort of virtual, just virtual coffee breaks. You'd have that with one person or with a few people in your team. So you might talk about work a little bit, but it's about non-work sort of activities as well, and just a chance to to chat. So I think that's useful. Where I was, we also had what's it called? A virtual kitchen on Teams, which was like a group chat, and it was an attempt to replicate how in the office we would go into the kitchen, make a coffee, bump into someone there and chat. So it was just for anything and everything. We had all sorts of funny little messages going in there, but it helped to keep the team together, and that can work well as well.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. I think we have a question from sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, Selma Begum. I think that she's raising her hand, so I'm allowing you to talk. Yes, please.
You're on mute, Salma, if you're speaking.
I think she raised her hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Are you okay? Do you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you guys. You are doing very good. I would like to ask you, as you mentioned, Baba, about the challenges about the remotely working. So how we can overcome challenges if we work remotely?
How we can overcome challenges? What kind of challenges?
Like communication, or maybe if I work as a team leader, how I can like communicate easily and I can explain all my working, including like that.
Oh, okay. So if you're leading a team, then it's going to be really useful for you to have team meetings, and maybe allow some time in your team meetings, for a little bit of chat, or have some sort of non-work activities occasionally, or maybe once in a while just make your team meeting just for fun to help with team building. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. Have you got a particular challenge in mind?
Yeah, especially when I would like to communicate people, because some people are maybe new member. If we like come with face to face, it's easier to communicate, face to face. So remotely is a bit harder. I feel maybe how I can act if he ask me, or maybe try to contribution any working or any programming things like that.
Yeah, so it is harder, and that's what I was saying, Salma, that businesses are still learning how to deal with this, particularly when new starters join, and having people feel sort of connected and involved with the organization. So maybe there's someone in your team who could you could buddy up with a new starter so that they feel a little bit more connected. And so have very regular meetings with your new starter at the beginning, so that they've got plenty of opportunity to ask questions, and of course be approachable, which I'm sure you are, so that they feel comfortable, to come and ask, be available for them. I think that's the best.
Sometimes I feel uncomfortable how I can act, if they ask, or maybe if new member come to team member come to us, so am I go to smoothly, or how I need to know the person first? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you don't feel that comfortable because you have
that
relationship
person.
with the person.
Yeah.
I recommend. May I interrupt a second?
Yeah, of course.
My own experience, Selma, is very close to what you're explaining now. So, I started a new job as a quality assurance engineer for a company. The company is located in my country, in Albania, but I'm in Turkey, so it's a remote job. Now, I went there actually, and I met everyone at the office for 3 days. However, so I'm the new guy, right? And there's someone who is in your position. The point is that it's very obvious that she has a lot of experience at the way how she communicates with people. So actually, as a person, I feel very happy when I am asked. I'm the new guy. As long as you don't, for me, I'm talking about my own experience, right? As long as you don't send constantly message like every 15 minutes, hey, how is it going? What are you doing? It's okay to check on people, to ask people how they're doing, if they need something, if they have any question, especially, when people are newcomers, they feel a bit shy when it comes to the new questions. I mean, as a person, I'm not shy, but I have this feeling that I have to research everything. And if I cannot find by myself, then I will ask it. But if sometimes someone asks me, then it is a bit more easy, So if you are a team leader, I would definitely suggest you to ask newcomers, if they have any questions, if they need anything. Well, not spamming, right? Not every 15 minutes, but so I'm pretty happy with how my team leader is managing the situation with me. So that is what I would say.
Oh yeah, now mine is I'm not team leader, but I'm asking because I had a team leader, but sometimes maybe I'm uncomfortable to ask maybe how she can handle all of my team member. I'm a part of a team member, so sometimes I was waiting to ask a question if she would like appreciate to ask anything. That's why maybe either team member maybe act like some smoothly, maybe they can friendly, they can interact people. That's why I asked. But thank you so much, both of you. I had some like now idea. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you too. Thank you, Selma. And I think we have a question from Yusuf. Yes. Okay, I'll let you get in now. Okay. Well, sorry. Did I? Oh, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Hi. First, thanks for this great webinar, and we appreciate your hosting from Clarusway and the great guest, Barbara. And my question is, could you give some hints, some tips about interviews, especially cybersecurity interviews? Because when it comes to being a cybersecurity professional, we have some challenges about cybersecurity interviews, and we need to hear some tips, some clues. And thanks for your answering.
Okay, so I think when you're going for a cybersecurity interview, maybe because you're looking for a job as a SOC analyst, for example, you're going to be ready to answer some technical questions. You may be comfortable with that already, but you're also going to be asked about some sort of behavioral skills and how you've handled perhaps some situations, how you work as a team, or how you can cope with a fast-paced environment, those kinds of things. So if you're asked a question like that, then there's something called the STAR method. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So you talk first of all about the situation. So you're telling a story here, really. Where were you? What was going on? What was the situation or the problem? Then what the task was, so what you needed to do, the action that you actually took, and the result that came out of that. And if you follow that process, then you'll be able to sort of demonstrate to the interviewer, how you demonstrated a skill that you have, or coped with a particular situation. You'll also want to be ready to talk about your strengths, and not just your technical skills, but your sort of behavioral skills too, and also weaknesses, of course. And when you talk about your weaknesses, it needs to be something that's relevant to the job, but obviously not something that's going to be a deal breaker, not something that's going to make the interviewer not want to choose you. And when you talk about a weakness, you can also talk about how you mitigate against that weakness. So what you do to make sure that weakness doesn't affect your work, and also what you're doing to develop, and improve in that area. Then that's a good thing, because it shows that you're self-aware, you know what your weaknesses are, and you're working to develop and do something about them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Barbara. I want to greet someone from our attendees. Is Mary? She was here with us yesterday. She was doing amazing yesterday. So I just want to say her thank you for being here again. Now, since I saw Mary, I remembered one of the questions yesterday that was related to the interviews, but it was a bit more particular. So it was about negotiating. Now, the question was a bit more technical, because that was the guest was a more or less a technical person, Cecilia. However, the question was like, should we negotiate the salary when we are, let's say, juniors or beginners? So can you tell us a bit more about negotiating? Let's say that I'm a complete beginner. I got an offer. Should I negotiate? How much would I negotiate, let's say, in terms of percentage, and what should I do? How should I behave? For example, myself, I also have this problem. I don't know what to say much. So maybe people that are listening to us would be interested in that.
Okay, I mean, I'll give you my take on that. I mean, if you're going into a sort of an entry-level job and you're maybe quite new to working in whatever area it is that you've chosen.
Let's go with IT. Yeah, let's go with
IT. Within IT. Yeah.
Within IT.
Yeah. If it's your first role, then you haven't got too much bargaining power, have you? Because you want to get that first sort of foot in the door and that first opportunity.
Yeah, because there are 100 people waiting there, actually.
There are 100 people. Yeah, there are plenty of people waiting behind you. And so, be aware of what's being offered in the market for sure. And then if what you're being offered is a little bit less than that, then you have a judgment call to make. You could ask for a little bit more, but you haven't got much bargaining power at that point. And that job is going to give you so much experience, so much learning. So do you want to risk not getting that job? How easy would it be, if you walk away from that opportunity, how easy would it be to get another one? If the answer is, well, yeah, there are lots of opportunities, then sure. You can hold out, for more money. But if you're not so sure, then all the time that you're not working, if you are looking for a job, that's costing you too. So I wouldn't negotiate too much in a entry-level position. Later on, when you're on a good salary and you have a good feel for your worth, you've got experience, to evidence your worth, then yes, you can push for a bit more then.
Okay. Yeah. Now the case with most of people that get into the boot camps, as far as I see, there are like two main categories of people: the ones that have a full-time work or part-time and try to get into the IT, or the ones that they have enough savings, or let's say they did their budget plan and they got into the IT. So now with the second team, it's a bit, let's say with the second category, it's a bit more easy because they already have a plan, and they have been working. With the first one, like I was, it may be a bit more difficult because when you get from another field to an IT and you don't get enough to pay the bills, especially now that everything is so expensive. Oh my God, I'm hearing people complain all over the world. It's not only about developing countries, it's everywhere. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, money is really tight. See, Salma's asked another question. If an interviewer asks about past work experience and I don't have it, what can I say? Well, if you can't talk about work experience you haven't got, but maybe you've done some voluntary work in your past, or if you're a mum, then you're certainly going to have some organizational skills that you can talk about. So you may not have work experience, but you do have a life. And there may be experiences that you have and things that you've done as part of your leisure activities, or if you've been involved in team sports, for example. There may still be relevant skills that you can demonstrate and bring with you to an interview. But of course, you can only talk about what you have. You can't make it up.
I just want to get something a bit more technical. Like if you are into IT, when it comes to juniors, a lot of a lot of, let's talk about full stack, for example. A lot of recruiters will check your GitHub profile, that's for sure. So I mean, you may not have a work experience, but if you have some really cool projects that you can show, that will definitely help, because that is the kind of the work experience that you can show, beside what Barbara said, because I don't know much about the communication, but let's talk about technical things. Yeah. So Selma, are you into IT? I mean, what kind of jobs are you applying for now? Can you please tell us? So maybe I can be a bit more specific. At least I can try. So, but I assume if it is, as I mentioned, IT, then definitely go on with projects that you have, because there's something real that you can show. And believe me, recruiters can understand if you, let's say, have done it for real, this project, or no. It's very obvious. Even when you start talking about it, it's obvious that you can do it or not. Cybersecurity analyst. Okay, I can't really help with that. Maybe.
Okay, but you might, if you're going for cybersecurity, maybe you've done, the Try Hack Me or something like that, or you've done some simulations you can talk out, or an internship, something like that, Salma. Yeah, any practical experience that you do have, you can talk about in the same way.
Okay. So, Barbara, I would like to, since we don't have any other questions from the question and answers part. So, I have another question. Like, we talked a lot about communication, but beside the communication skills, like, someone is really good at communication, but they may not very good at behaving. I don't know how to go with the wording, but are there any other behavioral or soft skills that people need? That are very important? Yes,
I think that there are, and I just want to say, Jamie, I think, was on Tech Talk last week, talking about personal brands and social media.
Yeah, Jamie.
Yeah. And we all have a sort of if not a brand, then a reputation in the workplace. It's about how people see us, what they think about us, and our sort of profile where we work. And a little bit of that is going to be built on what you do. So you may have a reputation for being very good at development, or whatever your area of tech is. But a lot of it is going to be built upon the ways that you behave, the things that you do, the way that you do things, and the ways that you interact with other people. And where I worked, we had some sort of corporate messaging, about how we were to behave, and there were quite a few of those over the years, but there are two that stuck with me. And one of those is when we had the 3 Ps, as they were called: personable, professional, and proactive. So personable was about being approachable, and being friendly, and being generally nice to work with. Professional was about doing what you say you will. If you commit to doing something, you commit to a deadline, for example, then you deliver work by that deadline. And if you can't, then you manage expectations. So you tell someone, you tell your manager or whoever that maybe you're not going to make it because you have some difficulties, so that they can do something about it. And so owning problems is another one. Just taking that responsibility and being proactive, so not waiting to be asked to do things, just taking the initiative. And then the other thing that we had was making it easy for others. So whenever we have, a relationship with somebody at work, or we do something for someone, we have internal sort of customers, and in any transaction, usually there's part of that where we're doing something for someone else, or where they need something from us to do what they need to do. So it's about doing all that we can to make it easy for other people to do the things that they need to do. So if you're a programmer, it might be about, documenting your code so that the next person who comes along can understand it easily, and things like that. And so being the kind of person who makes things happen, who makes a difference. And these things get noticed in the workplace, I think. And if you get those behaviors right, you'll get noticed by sort of management. And when it comes to getting involved in projects or sort of opportunities for promotion, you're far more likely to get those if you get those behaviors going. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was a very detailed answer. Thank you for that.
Sorry, maybe more than you wanted.
Yeah. Before reading Yusuf's questions, I have one question about communication, and what I'm saying may sound a bit stupid, though, so I have to warn you from the beginning. So when it comes to being friendly, like, how can you set up a boundary between being friendly and being not much friendly, so people will start to benefit too much from you? In Turkish, I mean, it's not my native language, but I'll try to translate that into English. There's a saying about making a tea. So now, in most of the Turkish offices, there's, at least at the big ones, there's someone who makes the tea or the coffee. I don't know how he or she is called in English. Now, in Turkey, they say if you become too friendly with a tea maker, right, you start brewing your own tea, you start doing your own tea, because, if you become too friendly, then they will rather see you as a friend than a person who will have to serve and give the tea. So how do you set up this boundary when it comes to being friendly, and the people cannot over benefit on what are you doing or how you're behaving with them?
Okay, so if you become too friendly, that people perhaps start taking advantage of
yes.
you. Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? And it's a balance that everybody has to sort of set for themselves.
I thought it may sound stupid.
How do you set that boundary? I don't know. I think it's a personal thing. I think you have to learn. You have to learn to say no, and to say no in a polite and respectful way. And find your own sort of boundaries and your own time. That you do say no. Because it's a judgment call, isn't it? When to say no and when to be helpful. But when you do decide to say no, it's about saying no in the right way, so that you're not upsetting people and you're explaining your reasons for not doing whatever it is they want.
Thank you. There are some people who don't really take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a question from Yusuf. Can you please read it?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so as an English communication professional, could you share your valuable opinions about LinkedIn? How can we stay up to date on LinkedIn? And what kind of things should we pay attention to while sharing posts on LinkedIn? Okay, so staying up to date on LinkedIn. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Yusuf. I know in cybersecurity, you guys use LinkedIn quite a lot, to keep up to date with the latest sort of information, because cybersecurity is moving so fast. So you can certainly sort of follow hashtags or follow pages that are interesting to you for that. What should you pay attention to when sharing posts? I guess bear in mind that, you know, potential employers may see them, so you want them to look professional, you know, so that they give a good impression of you. When you set up your profile, then, you know, you've got the skills section there you can use. You've got your headline, you've got your about section. I could talk about this for much too long, probably. My views on LinkedIn profile, so I won't take up too much time on that. But it is like it's another version of your CV, isn't it, on LinkedIn? So you want to present yourself as well as you can and give information that's relevant in a concise way so that people can see it easily. And don't just focus on your technical skills. Remember to include your soft skills as well, so that it's balanced.
Okay, I want to add something when it comes to LinkedIn. Now, as you know, Barbara, I mean, I don't do much, but let's say people from the team, Samed and team, have to check. You know, like we're looking for valuable people, for people who have real experience and can share, you know, with our participants here. So there are a lot of times when we see people with thousands of followers, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 followers. And when you see their posts, you see that they're kind of copy-paste posts. None of those posts are authentic. I have seen hundreds of posts about the best websites to find, I don't know, to work remotely or to work as a freelance. Same wording, same sentences, shared by hundreds of people. So my advice to user would be try to be authentic, right? I mean, you can get a lot of followers and you can, I don't know, you can start using LinkedIn as your Instagram or profile and you can become a star, but those kind of profiles seem really fake. I mean,
Yes.
So just try to stay away from that if you ask me.
Yeah, I've seen those posts too. It's not, you're not really giving any value, I don't think. And what I'm starting to notice as well now, because we have ChatGPT is capable of writing LinkedIn posts, but it's also, and certainly for me as a native English speaker, I'm getting that I can, you know, see that posts have been written by ChatGPT. It'll be harder if you're using English as a second language. But yeah, we're getting into a time when a lot of the content that we consume is generated by AI. So it's much better to be authentic. Yeah, and okay, yeah, use AI for some inspiration to get started, but then, you know, change it and put it in your own style and add something to it, and don't post just, you know, lists of things for the sake of it, because what's the point?
Yeah, we see that happening a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
the array methods in JavaScript, I swear to God, I've seen hundreds, maybe thousands of those posts. So I start blocking those posts and keep it. Okay, so Barbara, I would like to ask one final question from my side, and then if you have more questions, of course, we can continue. But that then a question is actually, let's say, looking for advice. So many people here, and many people that will watch it later, and that are watching on YouTube, I don't know the exact numbers, are people that just starting their careers in IT. Right? So most of our audience is that way, to be honest. So
yeah,
what kind of advice do you have for them? It can be any advice regarding CV, LinkedIn, skills, whatever you can say. And that we'll be really happy to hear that.
Okay, so I think the first thing would be to include some of your behavioral skills in your CV, okay, and evidence them as much as you can. Okay, so it doesn't mean much to say, you know, I'm a great team worker. Okay, am I? What have I done then to show that I'm a great team worker? So if you can include something of that in your profile or, you know, in job experience, and it could be job experience, you know, before you did your boot camp. It doesn't have to be technical experience if you're talking about a soft skill. Yeah, include those skills if you can. Take the opportunity during your boot camp or whatever course you're doing to practice your soft skills and your communication skills. So if you get opportunities to, you know, to take part in certain activities, then, you know, take that so that you can develop yourself. And remember that, you know, when you start, you know, looking for your first job, you're looking for an entry-level position. Okay, so you've got your qualifications, great. Okay, but your employer, your potential employer, is going to be looking for somebody who is a good fit, for the company, a good fit for the team. And if you're missing a little bit of experience, or you haven't used a tool before, something like that, you can go on a training course and you can learn it, same as you've gone through your boot camp. But if you're just not really able to work as a team, or if you can't communicate with people, that's much harder to fix. You can't just go on a training course and come back able to do those things. So the employer is going to be really looking at your personality and thinking about whether you're the right person for the team. So yes, you've got your certification or whatever it is you have from the boot camp, great. So have many other people. But what's unique about you as a person? That's what you want to really express to potential employers, so that they see that in you and see how you will fit and how you will grow in their organization, I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara. You know, before getting to the boot camp, because I've been part of the Clarusway boot camp, it's not a secret, I believe, anymore. So at the very beginning, you know, as a person, I always thought, you know, technical skills, yeah, that's what I need. But when we had this career management like lessons, I could see that some things made a lot of sense, you know, when it comes to your behavior. We even had lessons about, you know, about body language and how to behave during an interview. I always was thinking that, you know, no one reads those soft skills, no one reads your hobbies in your CV, but it turns out to not be that way. And the irony is that my actually, let's say, like my major is film and television, like what I started years ago, and it's part of communication, and I didn't really believe in what I started myself. So I felt pretty ignorant about that part. But, you know, after getting into the bootcamp, after applying for jobs, I could see that definitely, you know, schools, soft skills, communication skills, the way how you approach to people really matters. Now, if you don't mind, I want to make like 2 or 3 like short announcements that are about what we have in our webinar chat. The first link is a Slack link. Now, we have a Slack community with about, I don't know, the last numbers were about 5,700 or something. So it is just a community. It is where there are a lot of like channels there about job posting, about advice, about events like the one that we had now, that like this lovely event. We'll have more, you know, is for the upcoming month, which is going to be after some hours. So you can always join our Slack community, is there. We also have 2 more links. These are about Clarusway Canada tech community and Clarusway US tech community. So if you use Telegram, you can get into them. And well, we have also a link of a meetup where you can follow and keep up with our upcoming events. And if I can ask from you, Sam, please share Barbara's LinkedIn account, if you don't mind, Barbara, so people can add and talk to you. Sam, can you please do that? I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of people who would be interested to add and talk to her. So if you can do that now, if you can't, if you're not hearing me, I can do it myself. All right. Yes, let me just wait a second. Okay, Barbara, I think I will have to do it myself. Sorry for not being prepared. Okay. Okay, sorry, my computer. This is my old computer can be slow sometimes. Okay, I do. All right, I do have your. Oh, sorry. No. Just sorry. Okay, Sam, did you do it? Okay, yes, Sam did it before me. Thank you, Sam. So guys, yes, you can always add Barbara. My name is Enea. You can also, as you can see from profile, you can also always add me. I don't have much valuable tips like Barbara has to share, but yeah, we can connect. You know, networking is important. So if you have any last questions, please let us know before we finish this event, before we end it. Okay, so it seems like no. So Barbara, any last thing that you want to say before before we say goodbye to each other?
No, I mean, it's been great being here today. We've had lots of interesting questions. Certainly some of them have taken me by surprise. And just to say, for anybody who maybe doesn't feel particularly confident about their English speaking at the moment, in June, I'm going to be running a couple of cyber talk group sessions. So they're on Zoom, and we'll be talking about cyber and tech and business related topics. So it's just an opportunity for those of you who are on the cybersecurity side to get together, practice speaking, build your confidence, your fluency a little bit, and get some language feedback on vocabulary and grammar, pronunciation as well. So there will be 2 sessions in June, and they will be free this month as well. So I'll be posting about that in the next couple
Okay, so you don't have a link now, right? I was going to ask
I have. Yeah, I haven't. I'll be posting in the next couple of days. So
okay, so people can follow you.
If you're interested in those.
Okay. So we got 2 thank you messages from Stephanie, from Mary, and from Selma. Yeah, thank you 2 girls, I believe, from the names I can guess. So thank you everyone for being here. Have a lovely afternoon, should be in the US, I believe, and evening to those of us who are in Europe. So goodbye.